What is up, YouTube? It's Kingfisher745, and in this video we're going to revisit Incursions. I know that some of you have been having trouble completing these, so I'm going to go through and show you some really key tips and tricks. In this first battle, we're facing a team with Rescue, and we all know Rescue can be very annoying. And when it's our turn, I'll show you one of the ways you can deal with her. But first, we're using Magneto. I'm using Magneto because I knew that I would magnetize Rescue and the Agent. Also, Magneto is a very good character when you're fighting something that's pretty strong or is capable of doing a lot of damage. So if you have this character, you may want to consider using him. Since Rescue went first and already used her status reset, you're going to be fine to use Magnetic Field whenever it's Magneto's turn. But keep in mind it's very important to make sure she uses her status reset before you waste a turn putting on that shield. The other thing when facing these teams is you want to counter their classes. Now, me using an infiltrator costume is pretty risky since they have a scrapper, and I wouldn't recommend that. Even though we have a bruiser in Captain Britain, I probably should have worn a bruiser costume. So when you're deciding your team, make sure you avoid certain combinations. Like if the opponent has a tactician, don't use a blaster. You're just going to give them tactical maneuvers. With Captain Britain here, we're going to use smashing even though it won't stun Rescue. We really want to stun their Agent and possibly Beast. But now we're going to show you a key tip to these battles. You are allowed to use distress calls, and you're also allowed to use items. I'd recommend using items like Lost Page, which will remove all your debuffs, heal your team, and place a regen effect. As long as you visit allies, you should have plenty of this item. It's really valuable because you won't even need a scroll against these teams, since you can just use it. And then on offense, to remove buffs, use the item Mystical Munitions. And you really can't use this item enough. It's going to put a number of debuffs on the opponent, including Soulfire, which removes all their buffs. In fact, it's not a bad strategy to go ahead and spam this on Rescue. And there's another benefit from using Mystical Munition. It doesn't matter if you use it against your counterclass. For instance, if you're a tactician, you can use Mystical Munition against an infiltrator. You won't get counterattacked, and you won't even trigger their class ability. So that's just a really big benefit we get from being able to use items against another team. And one of the best items you can use, if you have it, is the Immobilizer. Because the Immobilizer is an item that stuns the entire opposing team. Next, I just want to talk about how you can stop your team from being taken out in the first turn. One of the first things you can do is use an item like the Savant Spear. It'll place a shield on your entire team before they get hit. By the way, right there you see my distress call called in Havoc, and he finished Rescue off. Then we still get to attack with Captain Britain, and we use Britannic to take out their Agent. Then he went ahead and procced another turn, so we almost take Beast down. So you can see the distress call can be very beneficial, and it doesn't take up your turn, so it's definitely something you'll want to use. Now back to another way to make sure your team doesn't get taken out before you get a turn. One option you can do is use the character Phoenix. She'll bring a hero back to life, and she also gets to cast Phoenix Fire on the opponents. So I like bringing her in as sort of a safety net. Even if the entire opposing team went first and killed someone like my Agent, Phoenix will just bring him back to life. And on top of that, she'll make him pay with a Phoenix Fire. Another character option would be to use someone like World War II Captain America. He'll protect your team since he starts with Shield Guard, and at the worst, you'll lose him to damage, but at least your Agent and your other character will remain alive. Wonder Man is another character that could help you get through that first barrage of attacks. I like Phoenix best though out of these methods, and that's because you obviously won't be a man down. I would say you could use a protect weapon on your Agent. The only problem is, since you can use items, having your Agent taken out before he even gets a chance to use anything is probably a bad idea. So you're going to want to keep him around as long as possible. That way you can get your distress call off, as well as use whatever items you may need. This current battle is going really well for us, and it's going to be over pretty soon. Then I'm going to show you the third and possibly best method for winning Incursion battles. And I just want to make another note. If you're facing a team that has something like Phoenix and Iron Patriot, and you have Havoc, you may want to use him, because you can use his level 6 to apply Exhausted to their entire team. Once their team is exhausted, then Phoenix will cast Mind Link, and then that'll be the end of her turn. And then when Iron Patriot goes to cast his full overcharge, he'll have to skip the rest of his turn as well. So you know that by using Havoc's level 6, you're going to make them waste basically 2 of their 3 turns. And then you can just go ahead and wipe away Mind Link, and try to finish Iron Patriot before he capitalizes. Now in the last battle of this video, you see that they have 2 infiltrators. So you're going to want to go ahead and go with Scrappers to take advantage of this. So we're going to switch Quicksilver to a Scrapper form, and then we're going to go ahead and use Omega Sentinel as well. Now the biggest tip lies in the fact that we're using Quicksilver. When you use Quicksilver, you're almost always going to go first, which means you have 2 turns to use items or whatever you feel like using. You don't have to worry about that enemy team getting the first strike. So if you're having a problem facing a team that's a lot tougher than you and can do a ton of damage, you'll want to use Quicksilver, and then use an item like the Immobilizer to stun their entire team. Then if you want, you can go ahead and use a Mystical Munition to follow that up. So on Quicksilver's turns, you'll have 2 very strong items played, and you can even throw in the Distress Call for good measure. A character like Omega Sentinel can also come in very handy. Now she won't get the guaranteed first turns, which can be really critical in this, but she will have 2 turns to use items if necessary. So in this battle we were looking for an Immobilizer, and we didn't have any. If that's okay, we're going to go ahead and just call in our Distress Call, and then after that we'll decide what we're going to do. If you use all your low level Distress Calls and only have your higher level, then you'll know that you're going to do quite a bit of damage by using that. So you could go through and use all your Distress Calls up, and then those agents that are on your list that are level 300 or higher than whatever level you are, you could just save those for these battles. I would imagine that should help out quite a bit. So now on Quicksilver's turn, we're going to hit their agent, since he will get a follow-up attack because it's an infiltrator. He also got his temporal jump, so that's another good thing. Then on his second turn, we could hit him again, but we want to put some dots on him, so we're going to use a Mystical Munition. And this is a great item, like I said, not just because of all the debuffs, but because it also removes his buffs. So it did over 1,000 damage, and it did all those different debuffs, and reset his War Frenzy. Now apparently he had the Shepherd's Staff, which does help him out a little bit, and then he decides to hit my agent with the Blade of the Guardian. We're going to Trigger Man counterattack. I really love this weapon, and it can do quite a bit of damage. Then the counterattack is just invaluable. Havoc unfortunately did get Uncanny Coordination, so he's going to get an extra turn. And our Quicksilver hits him before he takes that turn. Now it's going to be our agent's turn, and Omega Sentinel's following that. So we're going to go ahead and use the Neurotrope. Then we're going to use the weapon that we just recently got today, and that's the Lewis machine gun. We've been farming for this item for at least 3 days now, non-stop, and the reason is we really wanted to get it and try out Shell Shock. And there it does a pretty decent amount of damage, and of course applies Shell Shock to everyone. And that's because this is the challenge mode version. The regular version applies it to 1 enemy, and that's because it only hits 1 enemy. Then we use Plasma Torch, and that's to gain strengthened. Then we're going to follow that up with our Plasma Blast on the agent because he is a protector. If you wanted to play it really safe there, you could use an AoE attack and make sure Havoc doesn't get another turn. I wasn't that worried at the time, and I wanted him to die to Shell Shock, which is exactly what happens. As a result of not finishing him, he did hit us with Plasma Spheres, but that causes a Trigger Man counterattack, as well as a tag team attack from Quicksilver. And I believe that's going to finish the battle. That's going to conclude this video. I really hope that I helped some of you out, and maybe you'll have better luck in future Incursion battles. Thank you for watching, and if you have any questions, leave them in the comment section below. Also, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you don't mind, please leave a rating and share this video with your friends. Thanks once again and good luck in Season 2.